All right, and we're right back. And we're right back into a new book. Frostburn.
The Snow Book.
Yep.
Chill out. There, I've expended the joke.
Yep, good, because I think that's
Thank
all.
you.
So yeah, this is their first terrain book, I guess.
Good. That's the way to put it.
Yeah.
Climate book.
Climate book, yeah. So this is Frostburn is a book that is all about running campaigns in the Frostfell. Now, was the Frostfell? It's a term they made up. It basically refers to anywhere where there be cold, ice, snow, etc., etc. Much akin to how Underdark is really just a term for anything underground. As such, this book consists of a lot of advice and way too many rules for running things, but and occasional descriptions. But hey, guys, frost-filled environments. Yep, just telling you various things. Here's various types of winters and polar regions and stuff like that. And as you will see, like dire winter here's some rules that apply to winter. Here's some rules that apply to dire winter, and here's some.
No problem with dire winter.
No, I have a problem with like how many, how much use are you going to get out of this? Is my actual question on it when it comes to just the various types of like winter and dire winter and etc. Let's.
Yeah, the problem is they describe a lot of different, types of environs, but barring a transition from like one to the other in some other region of the game you're playing, you kind of do have to stick to an area and stick to it, unless your campaign's going to be very wide-reaching and you're going to go to varied and numerous locales.
I mean, at least the one nice thing is you are doing like a, cold terrain focused campaign. You can at least make an area slightly more dangerous by making it a dire winter area. It gives you like a little bit of expansion from being like you're in a cold area, but there's multiple types of cold.
It can a little bit, but a lot of this is also like, okay, did you do your shopping before going to the cold region? Yes? Okay. Well, anyways. It's one of these things that is solved by your wallet and it's not very expensive. So to some extent, like, a lot of the rules are like... Let's see. Like how many of them do you need? I do at least understand the idea of like, okay, here's the dire winter area, so really have your shit together, and maybe if they, like, you actually have to be magically protected to go through here. So yeah, targets both not magically protected or otherwise resistant to cold. So it's a way of keeping NPC or keeping the players from being able to cross a region unless they get like some magic MacGuffin that stops the dire winter. But I think I just described all the rules you need for that. It doesn't even need like a paragraph of stuff. It's like this area is way too cold for you guys to go through unless you have the, I don't know, gem of anti-frost. Make up a very flavorful name for it, but you get the point.
Why are you dissing on the gem of anti-frost? What did it do to you?
Nothing, but it needs a better name.
If you have to ask,
You named it. That's your fault.
Let's see. Of more interest, Frostfell Plains. So, just various places in the Outer Plains that actually would qualify as Frostfell. So, like, the 113th layer of the Abyss, Thanatos, which the cold weather is the least of your problems here. Considering all the undead on that plane, or undead on that layer, because Thanatos is, Orcus's lair. Or Orcus's, Orcus's lair. Let's see, the Ice Waste, which is the 23rd layer of the Abyss, which is very cold. Demon Prince, which is definitely... Oh, the Frost Giant. Okay, yeah, that's the Frost Giant layer. That makes sense. Nine Hells, 5th layer, Stygia, has some cold area, River Styx runs through it, etc. More important is the 8th layer of Hell, which is ruled by a guy stuck in a glacier. Or is ruled by
Which is upgraded from stealing hearts to just putting entire people in glaciers.
Yep.
That's how you keep them fresh.
Also, there's some cold places in the elemental planes of air and water. Because sure, why not? Let's see. And there's, let's see, Frostville hazards. These could be a little bit more interesting as just stuff that can happen, or stuff that can break up the monotony of, like, I don't know, travel or climbing a mountain, or can just be thrown in as random obstacles here or there. But just as random stuff that happens during travel. At the same time, randomly changing the temperature, I guess, could work, but this is also a question of, did your party prepare for cold weather? Yes, no. It's basically that check mark, or checkbox.
It's like a King's Quest question. Did you prepare for the snow? No, you died in the snow.
Yep.
Reload.
Well, let's see. Supernatural perils of Frostfell. Again, more interesting because at least you can require them to, like, you know, do a thing or just throw this as random terrain sometimes. Also diseases, including cabin fever, which is exactly what it sounds like.
Cabin fever is ravaged all aboard.
Infection, confinement. I actually find that's the most interesting part. Let's see. Also, poisons unique to the Frostfell, which, okay, got kind of some nice flavorful stuff there. And also more poisons for that one guy. Let's see. Frostfell traps, which are as boring as the traps in the monster manual. Hey, here's a DC and a challenge rating, and, you know, I guess stuff that happens when you fail it. Well, that was fun.
Yep. Traps, but ice.
Yep. Frostfell wilderness terrain, which is more interesting in the sense that this can actually be terrain for when you're... If you have a combat, at the very least, this is stuff you can throw on the board. With slightly different rules here or there. Dungeon terrain, similar idea. Like, I don't... It doesn't feel quite as useless as, like, the weather effects can sometimes, because at the very least it adds something interesting. It can add something interesting to spruce up a combat of one sort or another, or for just traversing through a dungeon, even if there's not monsters here or there. But at the same time, out of combat, sometimes it can just become a checklist of, hey, did you guys buy all the climbing equipment you needed? And or can somebody cast, like, fly or spider climb? Right, races, classes, and feats. So, getting into the crunchy stuff. And starting with the races. I did not bother much with the modified races because they kind of look like this. Here's a slightly different stat profile, okay? Yep. And I think we might have gone over them in Unearthed Arcana. I could not be asked to check. So the actual new races, which consist of Neanderthal and Uldra. So, the Neanderthals, they're big primitive humans. They're about human size. The comparison picture here has a halfling and an Uldra, which are both small size. Just, which is why they actually look bigger than they are.
Yep.
They're an okay bruiser race. Actually reasonably decent stat profile there. +2 strength, column, -2 dex and int. Again, extra +1 to hint if using some stuff from this book, but or some of the primitive weapons from this book, but their features are otherwise very meh. The Uldra, let's see. They are Fae who live in the Arctic wilderness and hug trees. My entire notes for this class are fucking level adjustment. Like, stats are slightly above, I guess. Oh, by the way, their base speed is 20, so fuck you. 120 dark vision and low light vision is nice, I guess. Ooh. As a free action, they can do, like, a point of cold damage and make their weapons do a point of an extra point of cold damage. Oh, but they have a feat that increases it all the way to 2.
Yep.
Yeah, and they have spells. Let's see. Ray of Frost is a cantrip that does practically nothing. Speak with animals and Touch of Fatigue. I think Touch of Fatigue is the best of those things I just said. They're Fae. Yeah, that's it. Okay, yeah. So moving on.
Old deities.
Yep, here are some cold deities. Again, unlike races of stone, I could not be asked to care about these things either. Not the least of which is some of these actually are just going to straight up come up in other books. Yeah, these aren't like all new deities per se. Like, Blade is a new deity we'll go over later, so is a Borgu we'll go over later because they're both attached to prestige classes, but like, Levistus is just straight up one of the, like, archdevils.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Therum is the, like, frost giant god.
Yeah. Other things, here's some new animal companions, which match the region, which is kind of neat, actually. Especially if you're trying to make a character that's from the region and want something that seems more appropriate. Alright, new feats. As you can imagine, most of these feats are very specialized to cold regions, but they're at least some... And also, most of the stuff that's very specialized to cold regions just plain sucks, even if you are playing in one of these campaigns. But there are some exceptions. Let's see. Beckon the Frozen, augment some. Yeah, your summon creature just straight up does a d6 more cold damage. You obviously can't apply this to things with fire subtype, but yeah, not awful to add a d6 cold damage to everything you summon. It does, however, gain the cold subtype, which means it's going to be vulnerable to fire damage, though it is immune to cold. On the bright side, you can cast cold and not hurt your summons. Frozen Berserker, which I just find funny. Straight up, the entirety of it is they gain the cold subtype. Which on the bright side makes you immune to cold damage. On the downside makes you vulnerable to fire damage.
It makes you very vulnerable to fire. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that improved Frosty Touch I said, which is here for me to make fun of it, increases that 1 cold damage to 2 cold damage.
So good.
Broken.
Mark of a Lead, which I actually found this one I found interesting for a few reasons. Most of the stuff is pretty flavorful, but it notably changes your favorite class to Clerk, which, if you're actually playing around the systems of 3.5, is not usually a thing. And the bonuses weren't completely awful. Like, +2 Sacred bonus to your AC against Evil Line creatures with cold subtype is not going to happen very often unless you're fighting a lot of white dragons. Although, if you're actually in a Frostspell campaign, you're more likely than not to run into Evil Line things with a cold subtype, but...
Yeah.
Let's see. Other than that, Meta Magic Piercing Cold is a neat one, which lets you... It can only be applied to cold spells, but lets you ignore immunity to cold. You'll deal half damage. And I believe, ignores any resistance to cold that anything possesses, so you just deal full damage to, like, demons and devils who will both have a decent resistance to cold otherwise normally. Oh, yes, and that was the other thing. Creatures with fire subtype will just straight up take double damage instead of plus 50%. Snowflake War Dancer, which was legitimately decent. Yeah. Lets bards expend daily use of music to actually be... let's see. Activating is a free action. Once activated, they get to add charisma to their attack rolls with any slashing weapons they wield in one hands. Which stacks with their other stats as well, so actually makes them into better melee combatants. bards notably get one use of bardic music per level they have, so after a while they just have a ton of uses of bardic music, so burning one to just for number of rounds equal to perform dance. So yeah, the entire fight just straight up add their charisma to all of their attacks. Not a bad use if you're actually trying to do melee.
Yeah.
Okay, now the funny one, snowcasting. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so yeah, any spell you cast, you can use a handful of snow or ice as an additional component when you cast it. It gains the cold old descriptor, blah 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 blah. Okay, so you're, so this feat sucks, but so I looked up this entire stupid combo for message boards here, which is locate city has a 10-mile per level radius and finds a city. So you apply snowcasting to it, it now has a cold descriptor. You apply flash frost feet to it, it now deals damage to everything in the area. You apply energy substitution, which now makes it electricity. You apply Born of Three Thunders, which now makes it require a reflex save, which lets you apply explosive spell to it, which all creatures things in the area that failed their reflex save are shunted to the outside area of the effect, and take a d6 damage per 10 feet they travel. Note the outside area of effect that has a 10 mile per level radius. It's also notable that unattended objects
automatically fail.
This includes buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And a few buildings and objects typically, but yeah, that's part of the whole nonsense of
it. This is very much a rules as written thing. No DM alive is going to let you get away with this, but just doing it rules as written. Everything in this radius gets shunted 200 miles and basically explodes.
Yep.
Living things can succeed at a reflex save and not die horribly, but they take like 1 cold damage. As a matter of fact, so they're fine. But
technically, they take like half electric damage and 1.5 sonic
damage. Yeah.
Anything that fails takes piles and piles and piles of d6 because it's a d6 per 10 feet moved.
And that damage is typeless, so they're just dead. Let's see. And other than that is cold specialization, which is either +1 bonus per die. In cold areas, just getting +1 bonus per die to any dice roll to determine damage caused by cold spells you cast. Which areas extreme cold goes to +2. This is really campaign specific. Also requires you to have snowcasting and frozen magic, which is another feat that wasn't all that great. And this is inevitably going to be thrown on an NPC caster just to bump up their damage. Or you can just bump up their damage with spells, really, you can just do that. Give them their custom extra better cone of cold. And let's see. On to prestige classes. Cloud Anchor, right? Mountain climber have some move abilities that work in places other than mountains, but fucking nothing else. Which, again, it helps you move, I guess, especially if you have a lot of rocky terrain and the campaign takes place entirely in like the most awful crap to try and move around, but you don't get much for it. Let's see. Level stack for monk unarmed damage, but that's not really much to let you do anything in combat, honestly. Pyrokineticist. The cold-flavored pyrokineticist. Unlike the pyrokineticist that actually requires you to be able to manifest a power, you strangely enough making it more justified to be an expanded Psionics handbook than pyrokineticist. It's just okay. It doesn't get to do the unlimited bad save or die effects, but instead gets to do unlimited walls of ice, which is hilarious. Not good, but it's just hilarious. Disciple of Thrym. Thrym is a Jotun Norse a Jotun from Norse mythology who stole Thor's hammer, tried to ransom it for Freya, and got fooled by Thor in drag, which was a plan of Loki's. Except in D&D. In D&D, he's the god of frost giants. Oh no, wait, sorry. All that also applies too, because he actually does hold a grudge against Thor and Loki. But yeah, this is a cold-based melee damage dealer based on around great axes. Thematic spell list for an evil frost god follower notably has Shivering Touch, which we'll get into later. Frost Mage. The hell is fold? Apparently I have a typo in my notes, but it's yeah. Oh, cold.
I was gonna say, I'm judging by the current theme of the book, probably cold.
Yeah. Cold focus full arcane caster that gains some natural armor. Yeah, prerequisites for if you're in a Frostfell campaign, not a bad prestige class for a full caster. If you're not in a Frostfell campaign, then it's pretty ignorable.
And the one nice thing about Frost Mage was that it does get ignore cold immunity at a certain point, if I remember correctly.
Let's see. One with cold.
Yeah, that's the piercing cold ability.
Gain cold. Oh yeah, they outright just ignore. Yeah.
Yeah, you ignore resistance immunities to cold.
Yeah, it already ignores resistances, but just outright ignores immunities.
Yeah.
So. Granted by spells and spell-like effects of magic items. Yeah.
Yeah, not natural.
Yeah. So its piercing cold is slightly better, which is great if you're doing a very element specialized mage.
Yeah, like if you wanted to be a cold mage, it actually works pretty well.
Yeah. Let's see. Frost Rager. It improves existing rage with natural armor and cold unarmed attacks, which it really wants to use. Which is also kind of a flaw, because as we've kind of gone over with Monk, one of the Monk's biggest problems is actually trying to use unarmed attack. Unarmed attack is discriminated against when it comes to magic items. But yeah. Knight of the Iron Glacier rides a dino deer. That thing. Has out of combat hour-long morale buff, a challenge with good buffs, which are okay but once per day, and extra defenses against boss monsters. As like a capstone. Let's see. Primeval. Bruiser picks an 8 hit die or less prehistoric animal to polymorph into, adding its stat bonuses to its own instead of replacing them. So it is kind of a fixed polymorpher who doesn't actually have to, or doesn't actually abandon his physical stats. Also loses int and charisma to add to the other 4 stats. Improves its form as it goes up in levels and gains some other flavorful stuff. I actually like this class. It's different, at the very least, and interesting. It's I straight up can transform into a T-Rex. I don't fucking care. It's a polymorph class that's actually built for martials as opposed to being just like based off the spells. Like if you actually want to like and it only uses one form, so you don't have to go crazy digging through the monster manual. You just basically pick one thing and that's your thing.
Yep.
Let's see. Brimefire Witch. So, divine prestige class of Halid worshippers, the goddess of Uldra, who is currently dead for tax reasons. Full divine caster who has flavorful stuff like binding with a Rimefire Eidolon, which are things that live on out on icebergs. Detect Icy Dickbag, and let's see. Also has actual unlimited use touch bolt of OK damage, some thematic spell likes, and a capstone that turns them into a Fey with some minor bonuses. Considering their race is also Fey, but yeah, damage reduction, cold iron, bonus to charisma. But yeah, Rhyme Firebolt, it's minorish damage, but at least it's like an unlimited use. Adds charisma modifier too. So yeah, the damage isn't great, but it's okay. It's also a supernatural ability, so. Stormsinger, Bard-like prestige class with full casting progression who gains more bardic music and more options for it that must use Perform Sing, which is the only real negative on that. Let's see. Their abilities themselves, a gust of wind, hits a dude with a bolt that does skill check damage.
Yep.
Okay, so there's a use for Harmonize, by the way. So, from the previous book, and for the people who are a little confused, Harmonize is a spell that lets you activate bardic music as a move action. So you could technically do that like twice in a round.
Yeah.
Control winds, control weather, a line version of that bolt I just said, and Storm of Vengeance. Which is is that like a 9th level spell, I think, or something like that?
It's like an 8th or 9th level spell, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds more interesting than it actually is because it takes forever to take effect. But if you need like a giant weather pattern over an area in order to just basically like keep anyone from going there,
it works.
Yeah, it works. Also of note, this is a Bard prestige class that actually gets to keep its goddamn casting for once. It can also technically, since you only have to have bardic music, you could technically advance in a different class, but you get the point. This is very bard coded.
Yeah.
And again, I actually kind of like the like, hey, I actually get to use my bard performances to fuck it, I can attack. Just a kind of different way of playing a bard in general. It's just kind of nice.
Can't have that. Take it away.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Winterhaunt of Iborgu. Prestige class of the dickbag half-brother of Hilled, the one from earlier, who crashes on the couch and never cleans up after himself.
Oh.
Let's see. Gets an effectively unlimited use cloak that eventually enhances cold spells as well as the ability to automatically add piercing cold to all of their spells as well as some defenses. It's actually a fairly good cold themed caster class, but it is tied at the hip to an evil deity. If you could bang hard enough and convince your DM to reflavor it, I guess you could kind of dance around it, but or, be chaotic neutral and hope he doesn't notice. All right, equipment. Where we have new weapons, which are sort of exotic and sort of not. So, the primitive exotic weapons, which is most of these things, technically you can just use them with normal proficiency. It's just that whenever you score a critical hit, you have a chance of them breaking. A very good chance of them breaking. Because it's like DC reflex save, DC 10 plus damage dealt. If you have the exotic weapon proficiency, they can't break. Other thing of note is this stupid collection of deer horns on a stick, the Slugan.
Yeah.
That is
it's
a
an
weapon
extra-
from Final Fantasy 13.
It's an extra exotic weapon that does like 2d8 damage.
Yep, does 2d8 damage. Is both piercing and slashing at the same time.
Yep.
Also of note, you can only, unless you have this specific feat, which also requires you to have the exotic weapon proficiency feat with it, you can only attack once per round as a full round action.
a super exotic weapon.
Yep. Other than that, gear section, which is exactly what you think it is, stuff for basically moving about in cold climates and surviving in them. Alchemical, cold-themed alchemical items, or cold climate-themed alchemical items. New exotic materials, neither of which are terribly interesting, but they exist. Or none of which are terribly interesting, but they exist. From what I remember. Frostfell vehicles. Which, yep, these are vehicles. Like sleds, war sleds, magical augmentations. Alright, Magic of Frostfell. Not, again, like most of this is very cold. It's very much themed around being in a cold climate, or being able to resist a cold climate or moving through a cold climate, but there are some notable other things. Player's Handbook Cold Spells. I put this here because there's one notable missing thing on this list.
Huh.
Let's see if you can guess what notable cold spell from the Player's Handbook is not on this list.
Doesn't have Cone of Cold?
Yeah, it doesn't have Cone of Cold.
We're retconning it, so Cone of Cold doesn't exist in the PHP anymore?
Yeah.
Right, we don't retcon it anymore?
Yeah. Yeah. Also, new spell components for this book. Cold Fire. Must have at least 1 ounce of Cold Fire. It's an alchemical item, basically, so it's not a big deal. Basically, it's just gonna. It's basically a material component that costs you 50 gold. And Frostfell. You must be standing in a Frostfell site to cast the spell. You literally have to be in a cold climate in order to use them, basically.
Yeah.
Let's see.
The environment must be this cold to ride.
Yep. So yeah, stuff of note. Entomb. Decent multi-target spell. Entombs people in blocks of ice, suffocating them. If they fail the Fortitude save, they are pretty fucked, quite frankly, because they're just straight up suffocating in a block of ice. And either they pass it, they take like 66 cold damage, which is not terrible. Especially for a 6th level spell that can do pretty selective targeting. Let's see, Frostbite. Again, multi-target spell. Title to a Fortitude save. Okay, yeah, this is a save for half spell, but the notable thing is it actually does dex damage as well. And even on a successful save, they still take the dex damage. Which, for a cleric attack spell, actually at that level, that's not bad.
Yeah.
It drops off later, but it is not terrible. Let's see. Hibernating Heal. Now, granted, this is only castable in the Frostfell, but yeah, this is just straight up heal for the amount of hit points it heals. And is a 4th level druid and 5th level cleric spell, so it is... If you're in the Frostfell, you just have a better healing spell as a druid and clerk. Especially druid.
Does take a 1 round to cast action as opposed to standard action, but yeah.
Okay, so in the hilarious to fucking do and imagine, here's Iceberg, which drops an iceberg on people. Yeah. So if they're within the 20-foot radius center, by the way, it just does 20d6 of crushing damage with no save. However, they do get spell resistance.
Yeah.
Because I cannot tell you what does or does not require spell resistance without it literally saying it in this game.
It's technically an evocation spell, which is why it has spell resistance.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, and of more note, Shivering Touch here.
The Dragon Killer.
Yep. So, yeah, Shivering Touch is a very simple spell. It does 3d6 dex damage that goes away after a certain amount of turns. The average of 3d6 is 10. Dragons have 10 dex.
Across the board, no matter the age category.
Huh?
Across the board, no matter the age category, no matter the dragon.
Yeah.
Yep.
Furthermore, this is just a level 3 spell, and it takes very well to meta magic. you can do shit like maximize it, so
Right.
anything that has 18 or less dex is basically fucked when you hit them with this. Other things you could do is, from a few books back, there's a spell that makes touch attacks into ranged touch attacks, so the squishy wizard does not have to get into melee in order to do this. Also, it's a cleric spell, so you can do divine meta magic with it. Thus letting you like maximize it at level 5 when you get it. And or you just buy a rod of meta magic and maximize. Yeah.
It's like their little spell. It's a lesser rod. It's cheap as hell.
Yeah. There's no save on this. You basically have to hit their touch AC. The touch AC of a dragon is 10. And never goes up. The only clause on this is it is a cold spell. If they are immune to cold, they can't take the damage.
Yeah. Can't use against ice or white dragons, but white dragon, silver dragon, I think are the only cold ones.
Yeah, it's white and silver. Yeah, white dragon is the weakest of the dragons anyways, so that...
So silver is comparable to red.
Yeah, silvers are comparable to red, but why are you fighting silver? You could probably talk your way out of that. Your party is very much fucked up, or you're writing an evil campaign if you're fighting a silver dragon.
But it is basically win a fight against anything but a white dragon.
Yeah.
For a little cost of a touch spell.
Yeah. A level 3 touch spell at that.
Yep.
Yeah, your only problem is actually touching a dragon that is flying around, but again, there is range touch.
Yeah, you get range meta magic.
Yeah. Let's see. Other interesting spells in this book. Conjure Ice Beast, which conjures something with this template. It does use the summon monster or summon nature's ally list, so it's not conjure literally everything. You can't use anything that is the fire subtype, but that doesn't cover terribly much of those lists anyways.
You cannot make an ice beast fire elemental.
Yeah. But yeah, it is a nice ice-themed alternative to the summon list. It's different. I think slightly better in the sense that I believe it. Yeah, it loses like a lot of what the creatures have for special qualities and attacks, and is more just specifically this thing. So
it also turns it into a construct.
Yeah.
With all the benefits and negatives that has.
Yeah. It gives it a bunch of extra hit points because you're turning it into a construct.
Because it no longer has a con score.
Yeah. It's probably honestly more balanced than the actual summon list and kind of a neat alternative. And again, cold themed. So if you're playing to theme, it's actually great. Also new psionics.
New psionics.
Yep. And some of these aren't actually bad. Energy emanation was mentioned earlier. It was the thing to qualify for pyrokineticist. Let's see. Yeah, this is straight up a 5-foot emanation damage aura centered on you that happens at the beginning of each of your turns, or on each of your turns, I think. Every round at unclear duration, at unclear time, it happens every round. You think this would be important to actually figure out? Yeah, not the best ratio for modifying it up, but for something that just continues once you manifest it once, not bad. Also is on the Psychic Warrior list, and again, the Psychic Warrior list more than not pushes you into being a melee combatant, but at least hypothetically. Other than that, not terribly much of interest on that, but they exist. Let's see, the magic items section. I think I highlighted the one thing that was interesting in the magic items section, which is, yeah, here's a rod of piercing cold. Also happens to be a frost dagger, but more importantly, lets you put piercing cold on, or straight up. It's a meta magic rod for piercing cold, which is just a good meta magic if you happen to be casting cold spells.
Yeah.
Alright, Monsters of Frostfell. It's a cold monster theme section. What do you want? Let's see. Here's a dire polar bear.
Yep, tell dire because it has spikes.
Yep. Saber-tooth tiger, woolly mammoth. Okay, I think we've covered stereotypes now. Okay, new race that wasn't previously mentioned.
So we just need Mastodon, and we've got 3 of the 5 Power Rangers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dwarf of Midgard. Here we talk about using them as characters, but we don't give you any of the actual stats. You can reverse engineer the stats from this. It's going to be
same as anything else.
Same as anything else. It has a +6 strength, +10 con, 4 int, 4 wisdom, 4 level adjustment, and let's see, how many racial hit dice was it? 8 racial hit dice on Outsider, which is as far as racial hit dice go, is solid. You're better off with actual character levels, but that's not bad. As an equivalent 12th level character, you can do stuff with this. Only thing is, it's not really set up for being used as a character. Also has actual abilities, but yeah. Let's see. Entombed, because here's some undead in a block of ice, which I just find funny.
It's in its ice power armor.
Yep. Let's see. Frostfolk, also yet another race in the monster section. Let's see. 4 racial hit dice, only 1 level adjustment, which is not bad. Actual pretty solid stats. Okay, where's the part where you fuck this up, guys? Let's see, this is monstrous humanoids, so
You do it often enough, you have to do it right sometimes.
yeah.
Broken clock, etc., etc.
Yeah, +2 natural armor bonus. Let's see, crappy ability, cold subtype. I think is the worst thing on here. Only because it makes you vulnerable to fire stuff.
Fire.
But there are things.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's actually not terrible.
Is that only 1 level adjustment?
Yeah, only 1 level adjustment. Yeah, that's not
Like level 5 character if you're playing one? Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. I guess we can occasionally run to something that isn't crap.
Yeah,
That happen eventually.
That's perfectly fine.
Yeah. I also start with some proficiencies too, like battle axe, longbow, light armor, shield. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. More frost giants. Just more specialized frost giants. Like here's a Tundra Scout. Here's that. Yep. Frost giant mauler. Just variety if you're fighting frost giants. Yeah. Yep. Snow goblins. Let's see. Rime fire eidolons that look like that. They hang out on glaciers and are a lot. Again, the Udra god. They're a thing. Spirit animals. Here's a template for creating spirit animals. Incorporeal Fae, actually. It's kind of neat because for once it's an incorporeal thing that isn't undead. There are a few that are just very uncommon.
Yep.
Let's see. Erkson, which annoys me because why is this not like up? I would put this in the front. Hey, do you want to run a bear race obsessed with like wearing armor and using weapons?
Yeah. We're not weirdos like those badger guys.
Exactly.
Debate? Okay. No, I'll give you that.
Like, this isn't a good race. It's like 5 hit dice. Let's see, 4 level adjustment. I don't know. It might have enough stuff to justify it, but yeah, it's like just in general, I just find this one amusing because it's a bear and half plate with a fucking giant hammer. What do you want?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Abominable Yeti, because of course that's going to be in here.
Yep.
Eddie, the mean old Yeti.
Yuki Onna, which I actually was surprised to see in here. Mostly because this isn't an era where I expect like Japanese folklore yokai to show up in random books.
I mean, they had to fill out a book full of snow monsters, so
They literally had the Shugenja in one of the other books we looked at. They're already doing Japanese stuff.
Yeah, but Oriental Adventures was a book.
Yeah. I don't think this is in Oriental Adventure, so I don't think they pulled it from there. I think they actually did make a unique entry for this one.
Yeah.
I'd have to look it up. Also, I got the name wrong.
Huh?
It's not Yuki Onna. It's Onna, one word.
This is a legally distinct.
Yep.
Yeah.
They can
I
copyright
mean
that.
specifically Snow Woman.
Let's see. And adventure sites. Because we kind of went over the campaign stuff straight up at the beginning. As I was pretty much the opening chapter. Here's just interesting places in Frostvale areas. Which has some really nice art, actually. I really like this Ice Razor City. And there's the Blood Palace in Ice Razor City. You want to know what this place was about. But yeah, not terribly much worth going over there. Let's see. Monster manual substitutions. Yeah, just for encounter tables, like you want stuff that's more appropriate to the area. And here's a bunch of encounter tables. And by a bunch of encounter tables, I mean a bunch of encounter tables. It's from page 200 to 224. There's 20. It's like, they're covering their bases on this one.
An encounter table for every type of snow.
Yep. And yeah, well, that's basically it. I mean, like, that's pretty much what I expected from this book, anyways, even before opening it, and it did not impress or disappoint, really, either.
Yeah, it's fine.
Snow, you got snow.
Yeah, it's fine. It's probably got some overbuilding, quite frankly, in the first chapter, but it's easily ignorable. There's plenty of stuff that you ignore in 3.5 books, anyways. There's a bunch of trap options and uses feats, and on the DM side, it's not really any different. I guess you have more snow-based traps that are just as interesting as the traps in the Dungeon Master's Guide. By that I mean not really at all, but they're there. And again, it's like there's broad weather effects and or climate stuff that you can technically apply, or the player characters actually bought stuff for a frozen climate, and yeah, you're good.
That's why you steal their stuff occasionally, so they have to their cold climate. Yes.
Well, kind of true. How much of that do you really want to keep track of yourself when it comes to rules? It's you're going to find like one blanket thing you're going to do to them or another. Like, okay, you're going to start taking like fatigue and exhaustion, or you're going to start taking cold damage or something, and that's about it. You don't need paragraphs and paragraphs of frost climate stuff, basically.
It'd be fine if you're running a pure exploration survival style campaign as opposed to a typical game.
Yeah, kind of, but it's a matter of trying to make that actually interesting, especially for the players who are playing in it. And how much of that is going to revolve directly around the weather and around the weather rather than the stuff they're actually finding when they're exploring. But like, it is a backdrop, and which is nice for flavor. It also gives good, or it gives good grounding for what you might want to actually add as like random encounters and stuff as well. But yeah, in any case, yeah, not much else for me to say on this book. Anyone else have something to add?
Not particularly. It's interesting as a splat book for Frost themed areas, but it's kind of got a niche audience among niche audience.
Yeah.
If I had to say anything, I'd say that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's fine. I actually like Sandstorm more.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things I really like in Sandstorm. But it has a couple interesting options, and it's fine. I mean, not every book they release is going to be a banger.
No. But yeah. That covers this book, and we definitely have time for the next book, because God, is it going to be short. Yeah, so we'll be right back for that one, too.
Yeah.